Home Remedies presents Can Wi-Fi cause cancer? Wi-Fi operates in the 2 to 5 GHz range, part of the microwave portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. This is the same part of the spectrum where cell phones operate, so I may refer to Wi-Fi or cell phone electromagnetic radiation interchangeably. These are radio waves, no different than those used to broadcast television programs, except that they are higher in frequency. They aren't nearly as high in frequency as visible light, and no one worries about getting cancer from visible light. Ultraviolet light, on the other hand, causes skin cancer, but this is the minimum energy necessary to cause ionizations that can cause breaks in strands of DNA, which is the mechanism by which cancer cells can be created. There is no credible evidence that non-ionizing radiation has any adverse health effects at all. There is no radiobiological mechanism that could explain such an association, and absolutely no scientifically valid evidence that this has ever happened. A friend of mine have treated patients with cancer for over 30 years as a board-certified radiation oncologist. I will tell you with absolute certainty that radio waves cannot harm you unless perhaps you were in the path of a multi-megawatt microwave beam, in which case they might cook you. But as far as I know, there is no likelihood that this danger even exists. There has never been and will never be a randomized trial assessing the cause and effect of relationship between radio frequency emissions and neoplastic disease. In order to have a randomized study, half of the randomly selected subjects would need to avoid cell phone use, and that's not going to happen. Humans have been exposed to man-made radiofrequency radiation for over 100 years, and we have always been exposed to microwave radiation from the cosmos. We do have evidence that cell phones or Wi-Fi do not cause an increase in brain tumors. Look at the time period over which cell phone use became common, say over the last 20 years. During that time, the incidence of brain tumors has remained absolutely flat, with over 4 billion people using cell phones or Wi-Fi today. If there was any influence on the development of brain tumors, we would be seeing that by now. The data from the National Cancer Institute shows no increase in the incidence of primary brain tumors over the period of time that cell phones have been in use. Bottom line, there is no biologic mechanism to explain why non-ionizing radiation, like the cell phone's emission of radio waves, could induce any type of tumor. We do have a mechanism to explain the association between ionizing radiation and tumor induction, but out of millions of people who have received radiation therapy to their brain, only 73 radiation-induced gliomas have been reported in the world's literature. For radiation-induced neoplasms in general, epidemiologic studies can show an increase in the likelihood of tumors, with only a few thousand people over a time period less than 10 years. At least something on the order of millions, if not billions of people have used cell phones for over 2 decades now, and there is no evidence that the incidence of brain tumors has increased over that time period. Now let's get down to why this sort of irrational belief takes hold, and among other things, we have essentially no control over whether we live or die, except that we should avoid dangerous behaviors like smoking, becoming obese, not wearing seat belts, texting while driving, etc. Otherwise, over 1 trillion cells carry on countless biochemical processes that we have no control over. 1 out of 4 people will get cancer. Beyond avoiding foolish behavior, we cannot influence that risk. Since we have this subconscious, ever-present fear of death, we employ magical thinking to give us a false sense of power over it. When we create artificial threats to our survival in our imagination, and then avoid practicing behaviors that make us vulnerable to those threats, we feel we have some power over whether we live or die. These are known as superstitions. If you liked the video, hit that like button to give it more value and share it on your social networks to let others benefit from it too. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.